Hey there, I'm Carl Jacobson. I'm the marketing director for PreSonus, and we're here in Burbank, California at Legend Studio. It's a famous historic studio that many great things have been recorded here. And we thought it was the perfect place to sit down with some producers, engineers, and creative people that have gotten access to Studio One so that we can get their impressions of the new features of version 3. The panel's here to my right, and why don't you all introduce yourselves? Sham.
I'm Sham Sak Pase Joseph. I'm a songwriter producer. Some of the projects that I've worked on was Kanye West's Yeezus, Watch the Throne, Nicki Minaj.
All right.
Hey,
My
Jay.
name is Jay, also known as KATFYR. I'm a DJ, songwriter, and producer, and I've had a few Beatport charting releases. And I've also,
don't be modest, Jay. You've been number one on Beatport.
it's fine, but you know. And one of my bootleg remixes became viral, a remix of Katy Perry's E.T. And you know, I do all sorts of stuff. I've been doing a lot of scores for commercials in Asia and also producing some acts in Japan.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Chaka Blackmon. I'm a songwriter, producer. I've worked with such artists as Christina Aguilera, Will Smith. I've also done some productions for Disney, Fox Music, and other various labels and film, television companies.
My name is DJ Faust, one half of Faust and Shorty and Urban Assault. And I also have a record label, a little label called Heavy Artillery Recordings. We are a multi-genre electronic music label. We cover everything from dubstep, drum and bass, drum step, electro, glitch hop, trap, pretty much everything under the sun. I'm like the A&R. I'm pretty much like the guy that wears all the hats on the label. And yeah, that's what I do.
My name is AG. I'm a producer, songwriter, engineer out here in Los Angeles. And most of what I do is work for TV and film. I've had, I don't know, maybe over 70 songs placed on different television shows, Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice, you name it. I've had some trailers. I've worked with, I don't know, a bunch of really great artists, Natalie Imbruglia, Matthew Perryman Jones, Angel Snow, a ton of really great singer-songwriters.
Awesome. All right, let's get into it. So this first segment here, we're talking about songwriting and production and using Studio One as a creative tool. So what I'd really like to know is, what do you feel is important in the tools that you use to write and produce music, and a little bit of insight into how Studio One factors into that?
I believe the most important factor for me as it relates to creating is workflow, like speed. I think in the world of creating, you should have access to whatever might inspire you. So with Studio One, what makes it amazing is I don't ever feel like I'm being limited. I don't have to close anything down. I don't have to wait for load time or all my tools. I feel like they're just readily available to me. And I just feel like what got me into Studio One was the fact that I can constantly be creating and jot down ideas that I can immediately use within my process, and that's what I really love about Studio 1.3.
Excellent. How about somebody else on the panel? Do you have?
I mean,
Chaka?
for me, it just starts with transparency. Because with a lot of the DAWs and things, I came from like a MPC, SP 1200 background, drum machines, and they were great at that time, but they had a sound. And for me, I just was always looking for something that sounded, kind of like when you go to a live show and you see a band and you go home and listen to the record and you want that same feeling or experience. When I do an idea or come up with an idea, I want it to be as close to exactly how I, put it out at that moment. And Studio One allows me to do that very easily and very quickly. It doesn't get in the way of the process. It doesn't sound different, but when you hear it back, it sounds, it has a richness to it and a depth to it that I don't hear in other DAWs.
Awesome. Anybody else have something they'd like to add to that?
Well, I mean, when I'm working with an artist or when I get briefs and stuff for trailers or just anything TV and film related, everything has to be turned around like within the day, like as soon as you can get it done, And like you were saying, Studio One is so user friendly. I am so fast on that DAW that there's no stress involved. Like I know I'm going to be able to make the deadline. I know I just need a few hours and I'm good, because seriously, it's just everything is right there, and just aesthetically it makes sense to me. It just makes sense. And and that's what DAWs should be. It should just make sense. It shouldn't be something you have to do tons of workarounds or invent workarounds. It's all right there and very efficient.
Yeah. You should spend more time creating as opposed to having to go to all of these tutorials and then now you spent 6 hours and the idea is gone and the moment has kind of escaped you. You know what I'm saying?
So what I heard from you is transparency, speed, workflow, just everything laid out a certain specific way. So, in version 3, you've all had a chance to play with it. Some of the tools that I think that really enhance the songwriting process would be the arranger track and the scratch pads. Have any of you had a chance to play with that? At this point, Bobby, have you experimented with that? What do you feel
experimented a little bit with the scratch pad. It's still new to me. However, what I like about it the most is the fact that I can create a bunch of different arrangements without having to get too married to my original idea, because I tend to write something and then move on to the next part. And a lot of times that kind of hinders the process of the songwriting, just because I really don't want to have to go back and change something if I don't have to. But the scratch pad feature really kind of enables me to open up a million different ideas and then really kind of settle for what I like the best, or not even have to settle. Just audition what I want later in the song if I want to go back to it.
Scratch pad is I thought that was brilliant because I tend to create out of creating. So I'll have an idea or progressions that I really love, and then I'll accidentally do something, and 5 minutes later, sometimes you forget what you did. But now I can say, oh, this progression is amazing, and immediately jot down the idea, and then still be productive with having to finish the original
Right.
idea.
So take it, drop it into a new scratch pad, and you haven't lost that idea.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've recently on one session, it kind of spawned 4 other ideas. And so in one sitting, I sat down and, I had one project I was working on. During, just the process, one idea turned into 2 ideas, turned into 3 ideas, and I never lost anything. So now I don't have to export an idea, put it on a desktop and hope that I, discover the idea again. It's all right there in the session.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of like the evolution of the song drop-down menu in Studio One too, where you could have separate songs and copy and paste. At this point, Scratchpad allows you to have multiple scratch pads open, and you can change between ideas. And that was the thing, because you can have your main song, a remix, a new fresh idea that you took a vocal sample, and just keep re-rendering and dragging new ideas in to create even, a brand new song if you wanted to. But it was, I like that evolution from the, opening, instead of closing a song and opening another one to see if what's inspiring in this session or that session. You can just have a bunch of scratch pads open and keep evolving the song as it, comes along in your head.
Actually, in 2014, in my demo of Studio One at NAMM, I used a separate song, like you were saying, to slice and dice bass parts, to make all those quirky, intricate dubstep, phrases. And now with the Scratchpad, I can just drag and drop and slice and dice and copy paste the way I want it, and then I just group it, drag it back to the project, and it's done. And
well, and then the arranger function, where you have all your sections listed, you can just move them around, and all of a sudden, and then it changes it in your arranging window. It's genius.
Yeah.
Both are really powerful for going back to a song to remix it, or if you want to do a different version of a song. I mean, that's
Yeah.
A pretty ingenious way to do it quickly and experiment and just have fun creating instead of having to like sit there from scratch and try to figure out how you're going to rewrite this part.
Excellent. So, Jay and Bobby, I imagine where you do electronic music, you might start with a lot of sample content, from time to time. So, have you found any of the improvements to the browser? Does that enable you, to get to what you need quicker?
I mean, I pretty much just use the browser. I don't drag and drop anything like from Finder or Explorer or anything.
Right.
So I was already able to do that with Studio One 2. With Studio One 3, I mean, the icons, for instance, I think for a new user, it's just starting on Studio One. It
You
makes
mean the
it
pictorial
easier.
icons for
pictorial
plugins
icons
so that you
for
can
both
see what
the
it is?
sections, when
Yeah.
you first open the sequencer window, there's like instruments effects and there's a little icon. I think it's more intuitive. And also, in my case, because I have so many plugins, the fact that I can have a thumbnail for the plugins that I want to use, whether they're instruments or effects, I think that really speeds up the workflow even further, because I don't have to, like, sometimes you're tired and you're not going to be reading the fine text. It's like you just see the thumbnail of the synth or the effect you want, you just drag and drop, and that's it.
I have to agree. I love the fact that you can have everything in one place, from instruments to to one-shot sounds to plugins, all in one easy-to-find browser, and be able to navigate really quickly through them, and even be able to play and loop, samples if you're going to use samples right there on the spot without having to like go into a folder or bring up, another program to open them or whatever, or another window to drag stuff in. It makes it a lot faster to find what you want.
Very cool. So, overall, I'd love to hear from you, some ways that Studio One just helps you with songwriting, or if you have any particular anecdotes about how Studio One enabled your creative process, that'd be a good, some specific examples of things that have occurred.
One of my favorite features, I guess I can do like two, because I have like a bunch of favorite features, so I guess they're not really favorites. But the comping tool, I tend to just have, a singer come in and just record about 10 takes. And, in other programs, the comping, it feels a lot more just like a process that you really hate. But the comping tool, it just seems really seamless. Like, I'm comping 10 vocal tracks within like 7-8 minutes, and you open up Melodyne right in there, so I can, I might have the perfect take, but then the pitching might be a little bit off. I don't have to like, again, go outside of the program. I don't ever feel like I have to go outside of the program. And like for me, a lot of on the fly, sound design ideas for me are something that that Studio One just plays into. Like it essentially, whatever your personality is in terms of creativity, Studio One starts to take on that personality. So for me, I might have like a kick drum that I might want to like distort, but I might not want to do that for the entire song. Well, then I can just drag on the effects specific to that one.
Right onto that event.
Yeah,
Use
right
it as
onto
an
that
event
event.
effect rather than
Exactly.
patch it on the entire
Yeah.
channel.
I love that function.
And that's a function that still, that was like on like the first versions of Studio One. And now I'm always, impressing all of my friends with just that one feature. And, they don't even have a clue as to some of the new features that Studio version 3 has. So like, you can just talk about the program for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, nobody knows really what's in version 3 because this is the this is the debut of it right now.
Well, before 3 came out, or it hasn't come out yet, before 3 was in beta, the folders function for me was like mind-blowing. Because all of a sudden now, I'm writing a song and I'm starting to build it. The artist is sitting right there and she's like, or he's like, well, what if we put the verse here? What if we just like double the pre-chorus? And I'm like, oh, that's easy. You just pack everything and you close it and then you make your markers and then you move everything around. It is 2 seconds, and every time I do that, people are just like, are you serious? They're so blown away. It takes 2 seconds. It's incredible. And now the arranger window with the scratch pad and all that stuff does that even better and even quicker. But I mean,
Takes 1 second now.
now it takes 1 second. Yeah, exactly. It's pretty simple people to just think it, and then it'll just happen. Yeah. Get on it, Carl.
Great.
And the note effects tool, like I almost don't want to tell anybody about it because it's so
I use that.
yeah, well, it's
It's a
not
secret
secret
weapon.
anymore,
Yeah.
but that's amazing. You know, with being able to again with being able to write really fast. You're in the room with someone and you want to just get to some progressions. I found like in the quarter,
Yeah.
like it's just not fair. It feels like I'm cheating because I'm writing so fast. And a friend of mine, we were writing a song and we had an idea up, but then he was like, "Hey, can we go into another direction?" And normally you sit down, and there's nothing wrong with sitting down and trying to figure out progressions, and but I was hitting one key and moving to progressions, and he just couldn't believe it. And we ended up writing, a progression within like 3-4 minutes. So it's like.
I mean, Dylan, one of my favorite features that was in the earlier version before 3 was like how Studio One dealt with quantization and taking loops and being able to analyze it and shift the rest of the MIDI to that groove template. Because I would take like audio loops from records or whatever when you're sampling, and you could do the time stretch thing, and it would tell you what the original tempo was, and then you could change the tempo, but then take that loop, drag it up to the quantize, and it'd show you the spacing, so it wasn't, everything else kind of synced to that loop. And that was always amazing to me because that changed, it gave the feel of the song a more live feel. It wasn't, and then having different tabs, like in most DAWs, you change it to 16th and that's it, or whatever the time signature you want to grid to, and that would be it. But with Studio One, you had like multiple tabs of it. You had like A, B, C, and D, where you could have like your 16th note, you have your 8th note, and then you could have the groove of the loop and start quantizing everything to those different things just on the fly. And that was like one of my little secret, features that a lot of people didn't know, like how I got that feel. It was like because I was, gridding certain things, not just to, the note value, but also to the loop.
Awesome, Chaka.
I actually learned that from you.
I just learned that.
Yeah.
That's
I saw
dope.
you doing that, and I was like,
Okay, so we're at about time for this segment. I felt that was a really inspired dialogue on how you can use Studio One as a creative production tool and the various ways that you can approach songwriting within the application. We're going to come back to this discussion in a few minutes, but for now, I think this is a good place to stop.